Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm, and you are watching fourth and final part of What If Naruto Was the Ulquiorra Schiffer. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
I worry about your safety, Conan said as she looked at Pain and saw that he was looking back with eyes that were once full of emotion. Your fear is noted, Pain said, ignoring the look Conan was giving him. And you were ignoring it, said Conan calmly. Ulquiorra Schiffer can't kill me, Conan. Itachi, Kisame, and the others may have fallen, but I won't, said Pain in a simple way. When he looked at her for a second, Conan asked, what about me? Pain turned and asked Conan, what about you? As Conan stiffened as if he had been hit, Pain turned away and left. You hurt her feelings, Madara said, coming out of nowhere because of his eyes. Pain turned to face Madara and asked, should I care?
No, but I'm surprised you don't, considering how long you and Pain have been friends, Madara said when she saw Pain's eyes narrow.
That was a different person, a different man in a different life, Pain said as he walked away from Madara. Conan is just a member of this group, and she does her job well. I don't care if she lives after this, and I don't know why she thinks it would be. She will not. I'll make sure of that, Madara thought. He knew that when this was over, all the other Akatsuki members would be dead and the Uchiha would be in charge of the whole world. As it always should have been. And Conan. After Hanzo betrayed her and Yahiko died, Conan fell to the ground as soon as she closed the door to her private chambers. It was the first time she had cried in many years, since Yahiko's death. After that, Nagato became Pain. He used the Rinnegan to turn himself into the god he was now, and he took control of AIM from Hanzo to become its new leader. Now he's become what we fought against, thought Conan, who was sad because he knew that everything they were doing now was hypocritical and that Yahiko would be angry with them for falling so far. Your sadness is pathetic, Ulquiorra said to Conan when he saw him through Garganta. Come to gloat before killing me? You wouldn't be the first to try, Conan said to the Arrancar in front of her. I don't gloat. I wouldn't know how, Ulquiorra said as he walked up to the woman and saw the defiant look in her eyes. You're going to kill me no matter what I do. All I can do now is strike first and go down fighting, said Conan as she turned her hand into a razor-sharp sword and stabbed it into Ulquiorra's pale torso. And not trying to hurt him in any way. I've been watching you for a while, Conan. In fact, I've been watching all of the remaining Akatsuki members, and I've found that out of all of them, you are the only one who deserves mercy, Ulquiorra said. She wasn't even scared of her weapon. She just knocked it away, sending paper flying everywhere, and her hand went back to normal. I don't want any of your mercy or pity. Kill me. Kill me and be done with it, Conan said as she closed her eyes and waited for the strike from the former espada that would cut her to pieces. Ulquiorra asked the woman, who was just staring at him, why she would refuse to go with him to Kumo or Mist. Because, despite everything that's happened, I joined this group because I loved someone very much, and if I left now, it would be an insult to his spirit, Conan said as Ulquiorra looked at her with that emotionless stare, which made the woman very angry. When the woman just shook her head no in response to Ulquiorra's question, he said, I see. And nothing I say could change your mind? Nothing, said Conan simply. When the woman nodded her head to show that she understood, Ulquiorra said, then it will be quick. I am ready, Conan said, knowing that this was the end of her life and that when she hit the ground, she would see nothing but darkness. Along with Zetsu. The plant that looked like missing Nin was always nervous.
Its two sides spoke in different voices than a normal person would, with the white side saying one thing and the dark side saying something else.
Pain gave the man his name, which meant he was two people in one. Because he could travel to different parts of the world, he became the Akatsuki's most important spy in the elemental countries. You feel it too? The white Zetsu asked in a nervous tone. Of course I do, Baka. He's here. Let's tell the others, said the black Zetsu, who knew it was important for the organization's survival to tell the others about Ulquiorra's arrival and make sure they were ready to fight. You're too late, Ulquiorra said as he appeared behind the missing Nin and cut off his head with his Zanpakuto. Ulquiorra disappeared through Sonito without saying a word and went to find the other two members. With Pain. Nagato, the real Nagato, who was also known as Pain in all of the elemental countries, sat on his throne and frowned when he felt Zetsu's life force suddenly stop. Madara was still on the other side of the base, and the Rinnegan user knew that if the Uchiha had suddenly decided to kill the key spy for the Akatsuki organization, Madara would have known about it. Pain said, "Something is wrong. Something is very wrong," as he tried to feel Konan but couldn't. This made him worry even more. She looked out for him. His defense. His last line of defense against people getting close to him. "You have no idea," Ulquiorra said as he stepped out of the dark room's shadows and looked at the man behind the bodies. "So you've come to kill me like the others? You would challenge a god?" asked Pain as he called up all of his 6 paths and got them ready to fight for their master. "You are not God," Ulquiorra told him, and then he filled the room with a lot of spiritual pressure to prove it. "This won't stop me," said Pain as he tried to move his 6 paths but found that none of them would move. He kept trying to fight this intense feeling of dread. "I've already done it. Once I kill you, Uchiha Madara will be next, and then everyone else who deserves to die will die," Ulquiorra said as he easily destroyed the 6 paths and pointed a single finger at the very skinny man. "I am a god," said Pain defiantly at Ulquiorra. "Not even close. You're not even a demigod or a small part of a god," Ulquiorra said as he turned the man into nothing and walked away. Only to run into Uchiha Madara, who had taken off his mask and was now wearing the blood-red samurai armor he wore when fighting the Shodan. "So the Kyuubi Jinchuriki comes to me in his new form," Madara said as he pulled out his sword. Ulquiorra just looked at him with a bored look on his face. "I'm not him anymore." "You can thank Konoha for that," Ulquiorra said when he saw Madara smile at him. "Yes, I heard, but I still don't understand why you're going after the Akatsuki." "You should join and help us reach our goal," Madara said, but Ulquiorra shook his head, knowing that when the man said, "our goal," he really meant, "my goal." "You think I only hate Konoha, and that I even know what it means to hate? I haven't felt anything in a long time, and I feel empty inside. Konoha, Iwa, the Akatsuki, and of course you have all made people suffer for your own goals. Are you curious to know what they all have in common?" Ulquiorra asked Madara, who was still smiling. "Oh, by all means, Ulquiorra-san, tell me and tell me the truth," Madara said in a way that was almost teasing. "You're all spineless trash and low-level cowards for being afraid of something as silly as death and judgment," Ulquiorra said when he saw Madara's smile disappear and turn into a frown. "You know nothing, boy," said Madara when he saw Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at him. "I know enough. I know you fought the Shodan Hokage for the right to be ruler of the village and lost. I know you couldn't stand the shame of losing to him and decided that being Hokage wasn't enough. You wanted more. But the villages were all too strong to easily stop you, so you decided to wait. You let time be your weapon, striking in key places to weaken each shinobi village, but the plan hit an obstacle in me." Madara said accusingly to the Arrancar, "You know a lot of things for someone who shouldn't. Kyuubi told me some things when we were together. As for the rest, you were a blabbermouth to my parents when I was Uzuamki Naruto and didn't know when to stop your senseless gloating. The Kyuubi himself told me about your humiliating defeat at the hands of the Shodan Hokage, and he even laughed about it when we were together. You are such a pathetic creature, Madara. The word trash doesn't even describe you. You dare to disrespect me? You should know your place, boy. I've been alive for well over 100 years, and I have more power in my finger than you do in your whole body," said Madara before he fell to the floor from the spiritual pressure Ulquiorra had put on him, which was much stronger than the last time. "You mean this power? The same power that makes you my slave? I have been Ulquiorra Schiffer longer than you have been Uchiha Madara. You see, time and space are different in Hueco Mundo compared to this world of the living. While it has been about 3 years since Uzumaki Naruto died, hundreds or even thousands of years have passed in that place I called home since my creation as a hollow of Vasto Lord status before becoming Ulquiorra Schiffer. This way I feel. It's like I'm I'm drowning, but the water feels thicker and denser than anything else I've ever felt. I can't teleport. I just can't." Madara thought this as he tried to use his eyes ability but was unable to. He was at the mercy of Arrancar, who always looked emotionless. A phrase that doesn't make sense. Itachi also made the same mistake of underestimating me, and he paid for it by having his soul eaten when he used his Sharingan. When that happened, I was able to see his memories, but I mostly focused on the ones of you and the important role you played in helping him kill the Uchiha clan.
Itachi only agreed to your plan because he knew he wouldn't live to see it through, and he thought that the fighting would end one way or another no matter what.
And you think your actions and plans will bring peace? You're a fool. Jinchuriki will always be hated, wars will always be fought, and the cruelty that people bring to the world will never end, said Madara, surprised to see Ulquiorra agree with him. I know. I'm not blind or oblivious to that simple fact. But the world does need to slow down, catch its breath, and sit down in order to see clearly. I'll make that happen, Ulquiorra said before extending his hand, cutting his palm with his thumb, and making the attack that would wipe the Akatsuki off the map for good. This weird power. It's the same kind of energy I felt when it wiped out everything in Rice Country. Madara thought as he tried to get away, but he still couldn't use his teleportation ability. It wasn't until now that he really knew what despair meant. Consider yourself lucky, if not honored, to see this high-level attack so close up and to die from it, Uchiha Madara. The Leaf and Iwa will face a much worse version of this than you could ever imagine. Gran Rey Sero. Ulquiorra said as he fired his attack at the oldest Uchiha in the world. And, in the process, killing him and all of AIM. It's funny. It has finally stopped raining. Is that due to the way he attacked? Or was it because the Akatsuki, like Hanzo, were the ones who made it rain? As Konan watched from her hands and knees, she thought, it seems like Ulquiorra just showed up behind me. Ulquiorra put a firm hand on the woman's shoulder and asked, do you know why I spared you? The woman looked back at him. No, I don't know, and I wish you had killed me, Konan said when she saw the man pick her up easily. I spared you because out of all the Akatsuki members, you were the only one worthy of living. Your motives were purer than everyone else within the organization. Even when offered the chance to leave, you turned it down out of principle and integrity that kept it alive. The others did not. You looked at despair and was not afraid to meet your end at my hands, said Ulquiorra, seeing Konan was crying horribly now, knowing everything this place had been was lost to her. Konan asked Ulquiorra, who was shaking his head no, what will happen to me now? Am I your prisoner or slave? I don't keep prisoners or slaves. Go to Mist. They could use your help. They know what it's like to suffer and could learn from your experience how to get through it. With your help, they'll get stronger. Ulquiorra said this when he saw Konan was surprised. And the Mizukage will just let me in? Does she know I was a member of the Akatsuki? Konan asked when he saw the Arrancar nod his head. I have already told the Mizukage to expect you, Ulquiorra said as he opened the Garganta and walked in. Don't think I'm going to thank you for this. Even if what you did was for the best, I can't just accept what's happened, Konan told Ulquiorra as the Garganta was closing. Ulquiorra said, I don't expect you to thank me for this. What I do expect is for you to survive, endure, and become stronger because of it. Hokage's officia later. Tsunade slammed her fist on the desk as she yelled, damn that baka. After reading the report of AIM's destruction, which was eerily similar to how Rice Country died, she had been busy trying to come up with a plan to fight Ulquiorra and his allies while giving Iwa tips on how to beat the Arrancar. Planning wasn't going well, if at all, and Iwa's temper was getting so bad that it could match that of the Hokage. Some things never change. You old hag, Ulquiorra said as Garganta showed up and the Hokage got up from her chair ready to fight. Anbu. Tsunade shouted as her guards surrounded the Arrancar. Don't bother. I'm not here to fight, and we both know that if they try here, you'll lose even more of your shinobi in such a short time, Ulquiorra said as she saw one Anbu take a half step forward. The Anbu from the Yamanaka clan asked, then why are you here? Ulquiorra said, I wanted to see something for myself. I'd heard that the Hokage's sanity was being questioned, and for once, the rumors were true. How dare you? Kill him, said Tsunade just before the intense spiritual pressure that Ulquiorra was known to release filled the room and made everyone fall to the ground. This time, though, it was much thicker, like when he used it on Uchiha Madara, and he stared at the Hokage who was on the ground. Know this, Hokage of the Leaf. The time of the village's judgment is almost upon you. Do not bother sending people out of the village, for they will not get far. Do not try to beg for mercy from me, for I will show none, just as the village did to Uzuamki Naruto. You will know fear, pain, and above all things before you end. Despair, said Ulquiorra before he cut off the pressure and entered the Garganta with the dimensional rift close around him. Shizune ran into Tsunade's office after figuring out what had happened in the room. She asked, "Tsunade-sama, are you okay?" But no one in the tower could move because of the spiritual pressure. "I'm fine. Get out. Everyone get out. Right now." Tsunade yelled as her pride hurt and her temper flared. Jiraiya shivered somewhere in the village. His senses told him to stay the hell away from Tsunade, so he went to hide somewhere safe. At this time of year, going to the center of the earth sounded fun. Kuretsuchi, the news Tsuchikage of Iwa, frowned at the report in front of her, as a scout had come running back to the village, and looked deathly afraid. From what the shinobi had reported, it was good reason, as Taki had fallen recently to outside forces. And not just any outside forces either. No. The village was destroyed by the allied forces of one Ulquiorra Schiffer, the seven-tailed Jinchuriki Fu, who was once the guardian of the village, and Suna forces led by Sabaku no Tamari. Most of the village itself was kept intact, as it was clear the resources around Taki alone could bring about a new form of prosperity to Suna with a fresh water source, and the value it presented to Wind Country given how most of it was desert. A large supply of water that seemed to never end was worthy more to Suna than gold, and Ulquiorra had agreed to let Taki be annexed into Wind since such resources would only benefit them in the future. That was 3 days ago. First, highly skilled leaf shinobi meet their end, Orochimaru, Rice Country, then the Akatsuki organization is destroyed, aimed soon after, and now the village of Taki itself is lost. The hidden village of Kumo, Mist, and Suna are allied together to remove Iwa along with the leaf for our past transgressions. Spring Country has fallen in with them, as has Wave Country, and the majority of their firepower are the Jinchuriki themselves. Even then, they are nothing when compared to Ulquiorra Schiffer himself, as he could easily kill them all without batting an eyelash, and had proven was possible when killing the late Sandame Tsuchikage right in front of her. All for the sake of those damn Jinchuriki Han and Roshi. Kuretsuchi knew it was in part to Ulquiorra's past life in being the Kyuubi's final Jinchuriki, but it was hardly fair to the rest of the elemental countries that they should suffer when things like this have been going on for years, and no one had complained. Okay, maybe that wasn't true, as people had complained in the past, but they were in the minority, or were the Jinchuriki before measures had been taken to silence those voices. Funny how karma had turned things around so the shoe was on the other foot. "Afraid?" said Ulquiorra, as he appeared in front of the woman, and scaring her almost out of the cage chair she sat on. "You? Guards," said Kuretsuchi with the Anbu arriving moments later with weapons drawn. "Do all arrogant cages in power send their shinobi to their deaths so soon?" "And I thought the Hokage in Leaf was the only one losing her mind," said Ulquiorra, seeing the female Tsuchikage quickly raised her hand to stop the Anbu from advancing. "Why are you here?" said Kuretsuchi, knowing there was a reason for the man being in her office and wanted to hear it. "I wanted to know if you and Iwa were interested in surrendering," said Ulquiorra, seeing the Anbu tense and Kuretsuchi doing the same. "Never. Every single Iwa shinobi and citizen will fight you and your allies to the last person capable of fighting," said Kuretsuchi, seeing Ulquiorra nod in understanding. He expected as much from her. "Can't say I didn't try. Also, just so you know, Suna and Kumo are outside your walls on one side of the village," said Ulquiorra, as the Garganta appeared behind him, and several other smaller ones acting like TVs opened to reveal the troops to the Tsuchikage. "What?" said Kuretsuchi in surprise. "Yes. They are attacking from one side and I am attacking from the other," said Ulquiorra before he entered the Garganta and closed with the scenes he showed with them. "Mobilize all our forces. Prepare to defend Iwa," said Kuretsuchi, but even as she spoke those words, explosions rocked the village, and soon the sound of fighting could be heard outside the tower. With the growing feeling of dread becoming even larger in the deepest regions of her gut, knowing this village had possibly seen its last sunrise. With Ulquiorra, the Arrancar looked down at Iwa, seeing the people rushing to defend their homes from the enemies outside the walls, and some even screaming in fear when they looked up to see him staring back down. Some called him the Angel of Death. Some called him the God of Judgment. He was neither. Ulquiorra Schiffer was just a man. A man that could kill with the strength that made the tailed beasts look like pansies, but a man nonetheless, and one with a purpose of removing one of the last remaining problems the elemental countries has at the moment. Slowly, Ulquiorra unsheathed his Zanpakuto, holding it lazily while staring at the people below, as his allies fought Iwa, and he just continued to stare down at them while thoughts ran through his head. Did he really want to do this? To activate his Resurrection form for the first time since he became alive? To show everyone his terrifying transformation that would make children cry, women scream, and men falls to their knees in despair? Looking back on his life, as well as what Han and Roshi told him about their own while being Jinchuriki. Absolutely. In close Murcielago, said Ulquiorra before he transformed in a blast of black with green outlined energy into his resurrection form with large bat-like wings. Below, people looked up in horror at seeing what Ulquiorra Schiffer had become, as his coat covered him from his neck on down past his feet, his hollow mask moved from one side of his face to becoming a center helmet piece with horns in the center, and his hair was now longer with a wild appearance behind it. His eyes now had black streaks where it looked like he had been crying and his fingernails lengthened to become almost like claws. In short, Ulquiorra Schiffer looked like the angel of death, and he had his sights set on living up to that title by making an example out of Iwa. I'm glad he's on our side, said Baki, as he saw Ulquiorra in his resurrection form, and would be lying if he said the Arrancar above didn't make him want to wet himself. No shit. I'd rather face my brother back in his psychotic days than him, and that's saying something, said Konkuro, as he saw Ulquiorra Schiffer descend down upon his section of the village, and wondered if the Arrancar would ever become an enemy of Suna in the future. He hoped not. Many of Iowa's shinobi converged on Ulquiorra's position, throwing weapons, jutsus, and everything except the kitchen sink at him. It was clear they felt that with his death, the man's allies would retreat knowing they had killed their strongest powerhouse, and make them all think twice about fighting Iwa. Sadly, if they thought Ulquiorra was incredibly strong before, then they found themselves practically fighting something out of Kami's own nightmares, and were soon decimated like flies. Each hit Ulquiorra landed caused his enemies to explode almost immediately on contact, as he ignored the jutsus and weapons thrown at him while focusing on close combat with his four limbs to destroy them all. They tried to bury him deep in the ground, hit him with spikes made of jagged-edged rock, and drop boulders on the Arrancar's physical form in the hopes it would turn him into a blood smear. Sonito solved the burying problem. The jagged rock spikes broke on contact with his body, and the boulders shattered on contact with his form. To further increase their despair, Ulquiorra used his javelin generation attack on them, as he speared his enemies into building walls around him, and the screams of pain from all his various victims echoing throughout the village. It wasn't long before the new female Tsuchikage appeared and was ready to fight him for Iwa's survival. So you've come to die, I see, said Ulquiorra, seeing Kuretsuchi with a sword at the ready to use. I've come to kill you, said Kuretsuchi before charging forward, thrusting her blade at him with the intent of it piercing through his skull, but the Arrancar merely caught the tip of the weapon with his fingers, and held it there without even blinking. That will prove difficult for you, said Ulquiorra before flicking the sword away and then dodging the next attempt that was soon followed by several more. Until finally, Ulquiorra has enough of the woman's attempts, and shattered the sword with the back of his hand before grabbing the woman by the throat. He lifted the woman up into the air, giving her an almost appraising look, as if pondering over the very idea of letting the woman live, and seek a life of solitude away from the shinobi lifestyle would be possible for her. That idea left when Kuretsuchi tried to stab him in the face with kunai. More accurately, she tried to stab him in one of his eyes, which under normal circumstance would have worked, but Ulquiorra Schiffer was not normal, and thus the rules of metal-piercing soft flesh did not apply. The kunai itself broke on impact with Ulquiorra frowning at the cage for being so stupid in lashing out against someone holding her very life in his hands. But, the Arrancar reminded himself that this woman was someone who fought to the bitter end, and not give up until death took her. With a flick of his wrist and snap of her neck. It did. The rest of the fighting had ended soon after with the death of Iwa's Tsuchikage, as the people surrendered soon after word spread of the woman's death, and the spoils of the village were divided up between them evenly. Scrolls, resources, clans, territory, and everything else was divided carefully under Ulquiorra's eyes, since both villages helping him in this attack deserved a fair share of the spoils. After the village was emptied, Ulquiorra in his resurrection form went into the air, and pointed his right index finger at the empty place with his power becoming extremely thick. Normally the Arrancar wouldn't use this kind of Sero attack, but given the fact the Leaf and the Hokage were no doubt witnessing this event in their own way, a statement of what was to come demanded such a thing be done. Okay. What's he doing, and I feel like crapping my pants, said Konkuro, watching from a safe distance with everyone else. Sero Ascuras, said Ulquiorra before firing his Sero that shot out of his finger with a black-colored beam with a thin green outline being unleashed on the empty village. By Kami, said Baki, as he was in shock at seeing the destruction Ulquiorra had caused to what was once Iwa. Okay. I just crapped my pants, said Konkuro before discreetly leaving the shinobi army to clean himself away from eyes that could use it as blackmail against him. Quite a few shinobi did the same. Konoha days later. Iwa was destroyed? That fast? Impossible, said Tsunade, as she had allied with Iwa in order to combat Ulquiorra, and his allies seemingly getting stronger by the second. Yeah. The guy apparently transformed, grew wings, bone-like helmet with horns, and after it was all over, he blew the entire village away with a single attack. He whispered it, but the name of the attack was Sero Ascuras, from what I have been told, and much worse than what he unleashed on Rice Country, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade becoming more fearful at that news. We have to evacuate as many as we can from the leaf. Hide them in a secret location and prepare them with a means to one day take that damn brat down, said Tsunade, as she wasn't about to have the leaf meet the same death as Iwa, and not have some kind of plan set in motion to kill Ulquiorra before rebuilding the leaf. Not possible. It's out on what we've done to Naruto. No one wants anything to do with us. None of the elemental countries will let anyone from Fire Country cross over into their territory, and the Fire Daimyo has basically decreed we're banned from relocating anyone out of the village. Even I'm banned from leaving Fire Country or the leaf for that matter, said Jiraiya while seeing Tsunade slam her fist into the desk in anger. So we're supposed to die here? To just be exterminated? Like vermin? Said Tsunade, as she glared at Jiraiya, and he just shrugged. What did you expect the people in the elemental countries currently in power of their own territories, Tsunade? They heard what we did to Naruto. The people he reached have had enough of people like the ones in Taki, Iwa, and leaf-abusing Jinchuriki. Suna has long since abandoned the policy after Gaara became Kazekage and Kumo changed things before that. What did you expect would happen when Naruto died? That those that cared about him would let us even get away with it? Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade glare at him. I don't care what those fools think. They are all the same. They care, are compassionate, and act like naive fools thinking that they know better than people like me. I'm a Senju, I'm a Sannin, a shinobi, and I'm the Hokage of Konoha like my grandfather before me. I don't give a damn what those insignificant bakas think of Naruto. I will not be judged by such weak morons, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya run a hand through his long hair. You may be Hokage of Konoha for the moment, Tsunade, but you know damn well those people, who cared about Naruto, are not weak, and they certainly aren't morons. If we were true to the Sandaime and Yondaime's ways, we'd realize that the weak morons are in fact us, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade had an almost insane look in her eyes. Almost insane look. How dare you call me weak? Get out. Get out. The next time I see you, it better be with Ulquiorra Schiffer's head in your hands, or I'll have your heart in mine, said Tsunade, as she saw Jiraiya flinch, knowing he had pissed her off to the very brink, and wisely left the room. This is bad, Shizune. I know what you mean. It seems with each passing day, she gets worse, and I don't know how to handle it, said Jiraiya, seeing Shizune nod in agreement. I know. Truth be told, I wanted to leave Konoha after Naruto-kun died, but my heart just wasn't in it, and I knew Tsunade-sama would see it as a betrayal to her. She does not take such things lightly, said Shizune, knowing she had nowhere to go and fleeing from the leaf would have been impossible. Tsunade would have seen to that. You can tell that to Ulquiorra when he gets here. Though don't hold your breath if he puts a hole in your chest like he did to most of his enemies, said Jiraiya, seeing Shizune shiver at that fact. Konoha front gates. I hate guard duty. Now more than ever, said one Chunin, who was feeling nervous for obvious reasons, and his partner was the same way. Same here. That Ulquiorra Schiffer guy could come out of nowhere and kill us without so much as blinking, said the second Leaf Chunin. Shut up. You'll jinx our shift, said the first Leaf Chunin before seeing someone was walking towards them and went pale when they both saw who it was. Oh shit, said the second Leaf Chunin before the two hit the alarm and closed the gates to deny access. I told you not to jinx it, said the first Leaf Chunin. Hey. Fuck you, said the second Leaf Chunin before Anbu arrived and they explained the situation. However, no sooner had the Anbu been told of the situation did the large doors become dented from the blow landed on them by Ulquiorra Schiffer, and then go flying open on the second hit. The Arrancar began walking casually into the Leaf Village, hands in his pockets, and not intimidated in the slightest by the Leaf shinobi swarming around him. I thank you for coming to me. I never liked hunting for trash. There is just no appeal to it, said Ulquiorra before using Sonito to appear in the middle of the swarm and easily destroyed them with few well-placed blows from his kicks he unleashed. Not once using his hands. Ulquiorra Schiffer, said Sume appearing with Hana, Kiba, and several others of her clan. Ah. The Inuzuka clan. How are you? Still doing your traditional fox hunts you enter in every year? I imagine it's not as fun anymore when the fox in question isn't a 6-year-old child just wanting something to eat, said Ulquiorra seeing Sume tense along with the other members of the clan. How do you remember that? Inoichi removed that from your mind, said Sume seeing Ulquiorra raise an eyebrow at her before raising his right hand to one of his eyes, before removing it much to their surprise. I never forgot. I remember everything. From my time as Uzuamki Naruto to what I am now. Do you want to see those memories? You and everyone around you needs to know my pain. Everyone needs to see things from point of view, said Ulquiorra before his eye dispersed into particles and covered the air around him with the people soon screaming out in pain at seeing the Arrancar's memories. Memories of his life as Uzumaki Naruto, seeing his abuse, his struggles, the hate, and the fact Uchiha Sasuke was not the saint they thought him to be. They saw the memories of Ulquiorra Schiffer, his service to Sosuke Aizen, the killing of human beings, and every single battle the Arrancar fought. Oh Kami. Such pain. Such horror. Did we really do that to him? My mother, my clan, and the entire village? Thought Hana, as she had never joined in those hunts, but that didn't mean she was guilty by association, and saw those large green eyes were so empty inside. You really think that pathetic piece of trash could remove my memories? When I was Uzumaki Naruto, the Kyuubi made sure all my memories were duplicated in the event such a thing happened, and to ensure I never forgot the abuse of the leaf. I wanted to prove to everyone that they were wrong, but they couldn't stand the truth, and would rather live a lie to lessen their guilt, said Ulquiorra seeing Hana now shaking her head, crying, and trying to get the images out of her mind. I can't believe. You always told me he was a monster, but not once. Not once did he lash out, and yet you still denounced him. Naruto wasn't the monster you said he was, mother. You are, said Hana pointing at her own mother and walked backwards into a wall. I know. I know I was. We were. However, it doesn't give him the right to do this now, and get his revenge, said Sume seeing Ulquiorra tilt his head to the side. You are such a hypocrite. Do you know the reason why your father ran away from your clan Inuzuka, Hana? He ran because your mother threatened to kill him if he was ever seen defending me from mobs like the one Uzumaki Naruto was saved from when he was 7 years old and denying her own revenge for the loss of her aunt during the Kyuubi's attack, said Ulquiorra seeing Hana glaring now at her mother. I want nothing to do with you. I renounce myself from the Inuzuka clan, said Hana before running off with Kiba calling back to her. Hana. You turned her against the clan. Like you did with Hinata against Konoha, said Kiba seeing Ulquiorra shake his head and close his eyes. You have all done that yourself. I merely showed her the truth behind the actions of this village. It's not my fault her family is filled with arrogant trash, said Ulquiorra before feeling the presence Narashikaku's shadow trying to hold him in place and constrict his throat. You talk too much, boy, said Narashikaku while trying to choke the Arrancar with his shadow strangulation jutsu, but Ulquiorra wasn't budging, and showed no signs of being in pain. Maybe. Did you enjoy my past memories too? Said Ulquiorra before sensing Yamanaka Inoichi to his right. Hardly. I don't care what they show. Your time is over, said Inoichi before using his mind-shatter jutsu to attack the Arrancar, but all it did was tilt the man's head to a slight fraction, and the former Espada turned his head to look at the shocked blonde. Surprised? You couldn't kill me with that when I was Uzumaki Naruto. What makes you think you can kill me with that jutsu now? Said Ulquiorra seeing the man snarl at him before going for another jutsu, but froze when the Arrancar pointed a finger at him, and saw Shikaku struggling to hold him back. I can't stop him, said Shikaku seeing Choza expand his arms and fist to large sizes before bringing both limbs down on Ulquiorra. Who caught them with one hand like they were nothing? You never could from the start. Sero, said Ulquiorra, as he fired the beam of energy at Inoichi, and put a hole right through his chest where the heart would have been. Inoichi, said Choza before crying out in pain at the sudden strike from Ulquiorra in knocking them away while breaking them in the process. Fool, said Ulquiorra before turning to face Shikaku, who had retracted his shadow and was taking several steps back. I guess this is checkmate, said Shikaku, seeing Ulquiorra turn his right hand into a fist. For you? Yes. Bala, said Ulquiorra before firing his attack at Shikaku and continued walking away without even looking back. Making his way to the center of the village, Ulquiorra Schiffer found himself surrounded on all sides by shinobi of every rank. Even the Uchiha was there, and of course Tsunade herself leading them with Jiraiya right beside her. Shizune wasn't with them, but the man sensed she was in the hospital, and filled with regret for the actions of her teacher. You're going to die, brat. And this time you're going to stay dead, said Tsunade, seeing Ulquiorra look from her to Jiraiya to the remaining rookies. Did you tell her yet, Jiraiya? Said Ulquiorra, ignoring Tsunade and focusing on the Toad Sanin in front of him. Tell me what? Said Tsunade, looking from the Arrancar to Jiraiya while the Toad Sanin became nervous. Your little ambush party in Wave Country when the alliance between Kumo and Mist was being made didn't work due to my ability to sense them. I was informed of the plot well in advance by the Raikage, and he got his information from one source by the name of Jiraiya the Toad Sanin, said Ulquiorra, seeing Tsunade glaring at him and clearly not believing his words. Liar, said Tsunade, seeing Ulquiorra shrug slightly like it was immaterial to him. Believe what you want, old hag, but I never lie, and find that the truth is the most painful weapon of all to use against you. Tell her, Ero Sennin. Tell her how you silently leaked out that information in order to bribe me for the forgiveness you desire and will never be given, said Ulquiorra, seeing Jiraiya looking nervous while Tsunade turned her head in his direction. All right. I admit it. I told him because I want his forgiveness, Tsunade, and I'm not the only one. Several Chunin, and the remaining rookies are guilt-ridden over what we did to Uzuamki Naruto in the past, said Jiraiya, as his voice was filled with regret, and saw Ulquiorra draw his Zanpakuto. I'll kill you later. Right now I want this thing killed right now, said Tsunade, pointing at the Arrancar. You do not regret hurting me when I was Uzuamaki Naruto? Your godson? At all? Said Ulquiorra, seeing the woman spit on the ground in front of her. My only regret is not coming back to Konoha sooner to kill you myself when you were still a damn baby, said Tsunade, while Jiraiya just winced. Oh yeah, Tsunade. Like that's not going to make the situation worse, thought Jiraiya, seeing Ulquiorra's eyes narrow slightly. I see. Search your hearts for what you all value the most. For I have come to take them from you, and in every form such valuables could take shape. Enclose Murcielago, said Ulquiorra before he transformed into his Resurrection form. Oh Kami, thought Jiraiya, sensing the intense power behind the transformation, and yet sensed the man was just getting started. Consider this an honor. Not even Iwa saw my second transformation, said Ulquiorra, seeing everyone was shaking in fear at the sight of him. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. You're bluffing. You couldn't possibly become even stronger than you already are? Said Sasuke in disbelief at the Arrancar's words. You should at least know one thing about me by now, Uchiha Sasuke. I don't bluff. Now you will feel true despair upon witnessing my second form and see what only a handful in life have ever witnessed. Resurrection, segunda etapa, said Ulquiorra before he was once again consumed in black energy with a green outline, which after vanishing seconds later had revealed the Arrancar's terrifying form, and the thickness of his already intense spiritual pressure, making his last statement of them feeling true despair becoming real when everyone around the former Espada fell to their knees. He's a monster, thought Tsunade, as Ulquiorra Schiffer walked towards her, and gripped the woman by the throat before lifting her off the ground to look the woman dead in the eyes. You're a disgrace to your family, Senju Tsunade. You betrayed so many people and even now do not regret it in the slightest. Even though some of the people in the Leaf wish to redeem themselves for their past sins, I will not let them, as they are too little too late, and have no reason to grant any of you mercy, said Ulquiorra, seeing Uchiha Sasuke glaring at him hatefully while trying to fight the despair the Arrancar's spiritual pressure had created. And how exactly are you going to kill all of us? Said Sasuke, trying to stand up, but fell back down to his knees, and could almost hear the grunt of annoyance from Ulquiorra at his question. Simple. I'm going to devour your souls. You will not exist anymore after today. Almost every single person in this village will have their souls sucked out and be digested within my body, said Ulquiorra, seeing several people struggling to rise, but were failing to do so, and saw fearful realization grip his former godmother's heart. Naruto. I'm sorry. Don't do this. Show mercy, said Tsunade, seeing Ulquiorra just blink once when looking at her. Naruto? I am not that human boy. I am not the naive child this village spent most of his childhood life making miserable for something that wasn't his fault. In your last breath, you say that you are sorry, but I know it is lie, and a pathetic one at that. As for mercy? There is no mercy in me to give people like you. I am despair in its purest form that you all had in creating through the boy's death. Now you will die too, only in the worst way possible, and without a means to see what lies beyond on the other side. Gonzui, said Ulquiorra, as he proceeded to suck the souls out of everyone around him and devour them into his body. With his task done, Ulquiorra then shot a Lanza del Relampago into the air to signal Kumo, and missed waiting not far from the village to invade Konoha. The leaf would not survive this invasion. Epilogue several years later. Ulquiorra smiled at his wife Hinata, as she held their beautiful baby girl in her arms, and saw the giggling child smile up at him. Yes, Ulquiorra had finally learned what it meant to have emotions after so long with the help of Hinata, Fu, Killer Bee, Gaara, and the people in Wave Country he came to visit every so often. After the fall of the leaf, the remains of it were divided evenly among Kumo, and mixed with the latter of the two, acquiring more in terms of clans to bulk up their shinobi forces. The village's jutsus, money, and whatever couldn't be nailed down was taken by the combined allied army once again under Ulquiorra's supervision. After the place was completely emptied out, the Arrancar quickly obliterated the entire village using his Cerro Escuras with the blast, destroying everything within Konoha above and below, with the secret root base along with all its members also wiped out too. Of course Danzo had tried to use his Sharingan eyes mixed with the Shodem's bloodline in his hidden arm to escape, but Ulquiorra wouldn't let him, and removed the man after the Arrancar threw him into the Garganta. As for Kumo, they acquired the remnants of the Hyuga clan on the branch family side, as most of the main family was killed with the exception of Hinata's sister Hanabi, who was currently in mist with Konohamaru after they married to rebuild the Hyuga clan there, and start things over with a fresh start. Shizune had surrendered to Ulquiorra, as she lay before him at his mercy before being taken to mist, but in the past few years since being there had several apprentices, who had gone out into the world, and used their medical skills to help others in need. What do we name her, Ulquiorra-kun? Said Hinata, as she held their baby girl in her arms, and the child filled with so much love. Her name will be Orihime, said Ulquiorra, as he gently brushed his finger against the newly named girl's cheek, and the child loved it. After that girl? The one who didn't fear you in the end, said Hinata, as she saw him nod, and knew the girl had started the process for Ulquiorra to understand the human heart. Yes. How is Anko doing? I understand her mood has been less than pleasant since she began showing in her pregnancy, said Ulquiorra, seeing Hinata smile, knowing that the man before her had a hand in that. Along with Fu's too. Anko's doing okay given the circumstance. She still says it's going to be a boy and has threatened to cause you physical harm if told otherwise, said Hinata, knowing the woman was complaining each day about looking like a beached whale. And Fu is acting in a similar fashion too, only she's saying twins, said Ulquiorra while trying to think up names for his offspring. How is Han doing these days? I heard from Ayame in her letters she's pregnant and that the man is the father, said Hinata, seeing Ulquiorra nod in agreement. He is. The man loves his wife and child to death. Only a fool would come after him now, said Ulquiorra, smiling more at his daughter falling asleep. I still can't believe Roshi fell in love with the Mizukage. He's even starting his own clan with her, Conan, and just recently Shizune asked to be a part of it, said Hinata, seeing the man nod. They trusted me in bringing them the happiness they desired and I delivered on it like I promised, said Ulquiorra, seeing Hinata nod in agreement. That you did, Ulquiorra-kun. That you did, said Hinata, smiling at her husband while looking at the man's chest where his hollow hole had been. The hole wasn't there anymore. Ulquiorra Schiffer now knew what it was like to have a heart.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.